Lead contamination likely affected the IQ of ancient Romans. A transport route with a fascinating backstory has been discovered in Sweden. In France, a kind of 3D map dating back to the Stone Age was unearthed. These are the stories I've come across this week, and I'll be covering them below. As always, you'll find all the sources in the video description. The magazine Scinex.de reports on the theory that lead poisoning lowered the IQ of ancient Romans. A team of researchers analyzed 3 ice cores from the Arctic. These samples are like time capsules that document climate data going back thousands of years. They focused on, in terms of content, focusing on lead contamination of the atmosphere. They looked at the time period from 500 BC to AD 600, and they focused geographically on the Roman Empire. According to the study, the level of atmospheric lead pollution developed as follows. Lead contamination began during the Iron Age. It then rose until the late 2nd century BC, marking the first peak of the Roman Republic. During the crisis of the 1st century BC, lead contamination dropped significantly. Around 15 BC, lead in the air rose again, coinciding with the renewed rise of the Roman Empire. There then followed a 175-year heyday of the empire, during which lead levels remained consistently high. They finally dipped again between about AD 165 and 180, when the Antonine Plague, interestingly, likely not an actual plague, decimated the population. It's striking that the degree of lead pollution seems directly tied to the economic state of the Roman Empire. It's well known that, at the time, lead was used in water pipes, tableware, cosmetics, and paints. It was also released into the environment through mining and smelting across Europe. One concrete example is silver mining, where the lead-rich mineral galena was smelted, releasing large amounts of lead into the air. But how do researchers arrive at the bold hypothesis that this lowered people's IQ? They've calculated that children likely had high levels of lead in their blood. Since lead poisoning still occurs today, we know its impacts, among them cognitive effects. Hence, the researchers suspect that, on average, the IQ of Europe's population during the Roman Empire may have dropped by at least 2.5 to 3 points. The magazine Archaeology News is reporting on the discovery of a fascinating transport route dating back to the early 18th century. During the Great Northern War, Swedish King Charles XII made several attempts to capture Fort Fredrikstad in Norway. Because the entrance to the fjord was blocked in 1718, he transported 12 large warships overland from Stromstad to the Idefjord, hoping to catch the defenders by surprise. It took around 800 soldiers to haul these ships, each weighing up to 30 tons, across 25 kilometers of rough terrain. They used pulleys, horses, and greased logs, among other methods. The path they cleared became known as Gallavägen. A few months ago, archaeologists seem to have rediscovered this route. Originally, they were searching for evidence of prehistoric settlements and old ship facilities, but instead found parallel straight lines they couldn't initially explain. Then they remembered the Swedish king's expedition. Now they believe they've found remnants of the logs used to move the ships. By the way, the attack wasn't particularly successful. The king was killed while inspecting a siege trench, struck by a bullet above his right eye. His soldiers also met a tragic fate. One of the armies shrank from 5,800 down to 2,100 men during the so-called Carolin's Death March as they retreated. The online magazine Science Alert is reporting on the discovery of a Stone Age 3D map. France is well known for caves that feature brightly colored Stone Age paintings. Now, in a small cave south of Paris, researchers have found something on the cave floor that sounds even more spectacular. They suspect it may be the oldest preserved three-dimensional map of a hunter-gatherer area. These people used the cave as a kind of shelter and carved the floor of one section so it resembles a miniature model of the surrounding valley. When water seeps into the cave from outside, it accentuates the carved lines, revealing rivers, deltas, ponds, and hills. It isn't a precise, two-scale representation of the landscape around the cave, yet it still looks remarkably similar. According to the researchers, the engraved gallery floor seems less like a geographical representation or a map of the surrounding landscape and more like a depiction of the spatial relationships of landscape features. It can be viewed as a miniature of the natural features and their relationships in the adjacent landscape. End of quote. It's likely that this 3D map was used for planning hunts, education, storytelling, or rituals. However, the scientists caution that we should interpret these findings carefully, since their conclusions are based on our modern understanding of the period. My thanks once again go out to the news detectives in our community for sending in ideas and sources. Which of these stories did you find most interesting? Head over to the community tab to cast your vote. Servus from Bavaria in Germany, take care and see you next time.